Six Nations, the final game of round number three is going to be England hosting Ireland. Ireland in the hunt for the Triple Crown. England looking to stay in championship hopes, I guess, in terms of being able to win the Six Nations. They've had the one loss in that opening game against France, bounced back with a win in tough conditions over in Scotland, and then now they've had a week off. For Ireland, they are two on the trot. They've had the win over Scotland in that first game, and then they seem to kind of improve with their win over Wales in the second. So, yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting one because in recent times these two teams have had a pretty even split, I guess, of the games. England winning 3 of the last 5, so that's it's not exactly dominant, but I mean the last 2 times they have played, England have looked very good against Ireland. That has just been the thing. Like, I mean, you kind of take Rugby World Cup warm-up games with a bit of a grain of salt because they're getting players fit, they're trying different combinations, this guy's injured, not risked, all that kind of stuff. But it was 57-15 to England before the World Cup, so that was a heck of a result for England. And prior to that, in the Six Nations of 2019, England went in and did a job, 32 points to 20. So those last 2 games seemed to swing things in England's favour, but if you head back to the 2 games prior to that, those are Ireland's wins, and it's one at Twickenham, one in Dublin. So, yeah, a lot of these Irish guys would have won at Twickenham before, no strangers to that. And, yeah, it's got all the makings of a bit of a ding-dong battle. I'll put the teams in the description so you can have a look. There's certainly a lot more changes on the English side than the Irish one. I mean, some good news for England is Tuilagi is back. He's in the 13 jersey. That means Jonathan Joseph moves. He moves to the wing. That was vacated by Elliot Daly as he's moved to fullback, as his jersey was vacated by Furbank, who is injured. So I know Eddie Jones gets a lot of grief about shifting players out of position. I don't think I've ever seen Jonathan Joseph play wing for England, but I could be mistaken. Jonny May's on the other wing, so that's kind of standard fare. Owen Farrell's at 12, George Ford's at 10, and Ben Youngs swaps back with Heinz. So Heinz is back on the bench, and Youngs is the man who gets the start. So, yeah, not a whole bunch of changes in terms of playing staff, but in terms of the numbers the guys are going to wear on their back, there are some changes there. For the forwards, Joe Marler is back at loose head. There is no Mako Vunipola for this one. Jamie George and Sinckler continue on at 2 and 3. Itoje and Kruis still in the locks. Laws is back at blindside. Underhill and Curry are 7 and 8. So that 8 jersey seems to be Tom Curry's for the moment. Anyway, Cowan-Dickie is back on the bench. Genge is still there. He was phenomenal last time. Stuart, I don't remember him getting off the bench in the last game. Launchbury is still there. Ewels is there. Earl is there. So it's a 2-man back bench. It's a 6-2 split essentially. Willi, Heinz, and Henry Slade is back, so he's covering pretty much the entire back line except for 9. I guess that's one of the nice things about having the likes of Farrell and Joseph and Daly there is they can move around as much as you want them to. They obviously have their best positions, but that is what it is. Ireland have gone pretty much the opposite route. They haven't changed their starting 15 as much as I could tell. So Healy, Herring, and Furlong is the front row. That battle is going to be interesting. Henderson, Ryan is the second row. O'Mahony, Van der Fleer, and Stander the back row. So that's, I mean, to be fair, I would have thought Van der Fleer and O'Mahony are you guys to kind of win your breakdowns. But in terms of getting pilfers and whatnot, Stander has really stood up this Six Nations. So expect that, especially with the fact that it's Underhill and Curry on the opposite side. I mean, Laws to an extent as well, but in terms of being fetchers, yeah, that should be a very competitive area of the game. So I'm not sure who's going to get on top, but whoever does will be one step forward to getting a result. Murray and Sexton is 9 and 10, so a bit of experience there, just slightly. Aki and Henshaw is the midfield. So yeah, Farrell will need to get Aki under control. if he decides to run at him, but likewise Henshaw is going to be busy with Tuilagi running the other way. Conway and Stockdale are the wings, and Conway, I think he's just signed a new contract with Munster. He has been in great form still, and Larmour is there at fullback. So it's the same starting 15 as the last game. The only change I could think is on the bench. Deegan is out and Doris is in. They've gone with the 3 backs on the bench, so forward replacements Kelleher, Kilcoyne, Porter, Toner and Doris. And then with your backs, it's John Cooney, Ross Byrne and Keith Earls covering the rest. So a more traditional setup there for Ireland. So, yeah. It's never an easy place to go as Twickenham, but like I said, some of these Irish guys would have been in that squad that won just a couple of years ago. That being said, England recently have had the wood on Ireland, at least for the last 2 results, at least for last year. I know that's not like an extensive set of results. If you look at these 5 games, the average score is actually pretty emphatic. It's 27-16 to England. But if you take out that Rugby World Cup warm-up game, which, like I said, is a bit of an outlier in terms of the results, it becomes like 19-17 to England. So traditionally, these teams have pretty close games, which is, I guess, to be expected. It's going to be pretty hard fought. So, yeah. The bookies have got England by 7, so 1 try favourites, 1 converted try. And the rugby forecast algorithm goes a 1 step further, and they're saying England by 11 points, so just over a converted try. So yeah, it should be a pretty interesting one, like I said, because England, it's just so hard to gauge where they're at the moment, because the France game was very much a game of 2 halves, where they did kind of come better in that second half, but they were pretty bad in the first half, and France did a job, and in tough conditions in Scotland, they also managed to get a win. But yeah, it's like we haven't quite seen what the standard result is for England as yet. For Ireland, they seem to be tracking pretty well. They weren't convincing in that game against Scotland, but it was still a good win. And then they kind of were convincing, I think, in that game against Wales. They seem to be tracking in the right direction. I mean, you could definitely say the same about England. Lost the first game, won the second game. Not easy to start with 2 away games. They're finally back at home. So, yeah, it's still an interesting one. It should be a bit of a ding-dong battle. I think it's on like 4 in the morning here in New Zealand on Monday, which is, of course, a work day. So that's going to be a long day for me, but hopefully if I'm going to get up to watch it, it starts the day off on the right foot. So with some... It doesn't even have to be a big score, but as long as it's a tight game with some good moments, then I'll be enjoying myself. You guys let me know your thoughts on the teams, which, as I said, are in the description. How do you think they're going to go? Do you think it's going to be Andy Farrell with his consistency that gets the job done? Or do you think Eddie Jones with these switches he's put in, do you think that is the best? Where's Ollie Thorley, man? I thought he was picked. Wasn't he in the squad? Shouldn't he be playing wing? I don't know, man. I've seen him playing in the Champions Cup, and he looks the business. So that was a bit of a surprising one. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts on the game down in the comments. If you're looking for England or Ireland gear, England Rugby Store is the place to go. At least they're having a bit of a sale on at the moment. And you can get an additional 10% off if you use the code 2cents10. That link is down in the description. And if you're outside the UK or Ireland, or France or Italy for that matter, and you want to watch Six Nations, don't know how, haven't signed up for your local broadcast or whatever, there's a way to get it done using a VPN. ExpressVPN is the one I use for that, but a link is down in the description there for that one as well. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts. Talk to you again soon. See you later.